Hello and welcome to Daily Biz. My name is Thuy Linh and let's check out what we have in store for you in this news bulletin. International organizations issuing securities must open bank accounts in Vietnam Dong. GDP growth predicted to reach 6.4%. White House video underlines post-TPP U.S. export strategy. We now begin with the stock exchange. Red is the dominant color on two bourses today. On the Ho Chi Minh City Stock Exchange, the Vietnam Index lost 4.16 points to close at 590.45 points at the end of the session, with over 127 million shares traded, valued at around $100 million. Meanwhile, the HN Index on the Hanoi Stock Exchange ended at 80.97 points, a slight decrease at 0.38 points. The VN30 Index also fell 5.81 points to close at 605.56 points, with 5 gainers and 23 losers. Meanwhile, Upcom Index of unlisted companies gained 0.66 points to finish at 53.73 points. Now let's check out the gainer-loser of today's trading. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng reviewed Vietnam's socio-economic growth over the year and provided an analysis of the country's development over the last 5 years to the National Assembly this morning. The Prime Minister reported that Vietnam had managed to maintain a stable macroeconomy while maintaining inflation under control over the first 9 months of the year. Interest rates are decreasing, only 40% of their level in 2011. Foreign exchange rates have been adjusted properly and trust in the dong has increased, helping to minimize the dollarization of the economy. Export turnover has increased by 18% annually, while import turnover increased by 15%. Foreign reserves have reached a record high in 2015. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng also pointed out several issues that have yet to be resolved. The Prime Minister added that more efforts will be made to accelerate the equitization of state-owned enterprises. International organizations operating in Vietnam eligible to issue securities must have bank accounts in Vietnamese currency. This is a provision announced by the State Bank of Vietnam in a recent draft circular on the instruction to open and use an issuance securities account in Vietnam Dong. According to the circular, after obtaining the legal status to issue securities in Vietnam, international organizations must open an issuance account in Vietnam Dong at an authorized credit institution. In case an organization has many investment projects in Vietnam, they must open separate accounts for each project. According to the BMI research, Vietnam has bright prospects in terms of economic growth this year, with GDP growth set to reach 6.4% in 2015, up 0.4% higher than last year. Improved foreign investment and a rosier business environment are considered as the main driving force of the Vietnam's economic growth. In that context, improving competitiveness and using the latest global best practice should be prioritized for Vietnamese companies in the private sector. BMI research also said that manufacturing remains a key driving force of overall economic growth in the coming time. U.S. business newspaper The Wall Street Journal has reported on the massive increase in manufacturing capacity in Vietnam, taking advantage of Vietnam's young workforce and wages that are roughly half of those in China. Many economists believe that investment in Vietnam will increase and made-in-Vietnam goods such as clothing and textiles will become increasingly common, especially if the Trans-Pacific Partnership is ratified by the U.S. and other negotiating partners. If the TPP takes effect, textiles products could enjoy 0% tax when companies use fiber and fabric from TPP member countries. Therefore, textile products manufactured in Vietnam could enjoy many benefits. Many foreign investors have come to Vietnam to seek investment opportunities in textiles. Let's find out more in the following.
This is a $75 million joint venture between the Chinese-owned Younger Group and a Vietnamese business. When completed, the factory will have the largest capacity in the north of Vietnam.
They have a large amount of capital, and they have better technologies than us.
Besides the dyeing factory, the Younger Group has also invested in a cotton mill in order to provide material for its textile factories. 6 years ago, Younger constructed 2 textile factories in Hưng Yên and Nam Định provinces instead of importing materials from China. These 2 factories will provide 80% of materials for their textile factories. The firm can nevertheless enjoy the benefits of the agreement through shifting its supply chains from China to Vietnam.
They can see the potential of the TPP despite foreign investors not necessarily coming from TPP signatory members. They are taking advantage of the strengths of the local textile and garment industry.
This is one of many textile corporations from China, Korea, and Japan that has invested in Vietnam. $4 billion has been invested by foreign firms into the textile industry over the past 2 years, a figure that has exceeded total investment in the textile industry over the past 10 years. In the first 9 months of 2015, FDI in textile sector reached $1.2 billion, accounting for 20% of total investment in Vietnam.
China used to be the ideal location for global supply chains during the past decade. However, investors are looking for a location with new opportunities, and Vietnam is considered as a potential destination for international supply chains.
Vietnam's textile industry currently imports $8 billion of materials every year. These numbers likely to increase after the TPP takes effect. The TPP could bring many benefits to the garment and textile sector as foreign investors are turning to Vietnam to seek investment opportunities.
And before we move to the next part of Daily Biz, let's check out how the Vietnam dong is weighed against other currencies in the world's market today. A new White House-produced video promoting the benefits of the Trans-Pacific Partnership to U.S. farmers has included an example featuring Vietnam. The video claims once the TPP is implemented, it could mean U.S.-grown cherries could occupy the best spots in Vietnamese grocers.
Washington State is well known for its cherries. The video promotes the U.S. as one of the biggest cherry exporters in the world. However, Washington-grown cherries currently face a 10% tax rate in Vietnam compared to Australian cherries, which will bear a 0% tax rate when entering Vietnam next year. Nevertheless, once the TPP becomes effective, tariff barriers on U.S. cherries will be lifted and U.S. produce could dominate the market. U.S. economist Thomas Jandal believes the video is just for domestic audiences and is an attempt to convince the representative of the U.S. state that they should vote in favor of the TPP being adopted.
It's a beginning. They targeted Washington State and cherry exports to Vietnam. I think that we will see more of these targeting beef exports from Texas and targeting this and that from other states. And I think you will see the president meeting with a lot of members of Congress, mostly Democrats, also some Republicans, to talk about his legacy.
The video also shows the White House effort to lobby senators to ratify the TPP. According to the statistic provided by Obama administration, 95% consumers of American goods are outside of the country. Therefore, the TPP could facilitate the consumption of American goods, which will create more jobs.
Of looking weak, of looking unreliable to allies would be huge if TPP failed.
The period from now until the election season is considered the most important stage in whether the TPP will ever be adopted. If things go smoothly, it won't be until the first quarter of next year at the earliest that the U.S. Congress will even take a vote on adopting the TPP.
The Prime Minister approved a scheme to develop a Vietnamese rice brand in May. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and Ministry of Science and Technology co-organized a conference this morning in the southern province of Kiên Giang to kickstart this scheme. Over 200 rice exporters and leaders from provinces and localities across the country attended the event. Although Vietnam is now among the leading rice exporters, its rice lacks competitiveness in the international market. Therefore, the branding project has attracted attention from enterprises and researchers. According to the scheme, jasmine, fragrant and sticky rice from Mekong Delta region have been selected. Rice brands will be developed at enterprise level, local and national levels. The scheme is intended to ensure that 20% of Vietnam's rice export turnover will be branded by 2020, with the figure set to increase to 50% by 2030. International shippers are set to benefit from cheaper costs after Tân Cảng Sài Gòn Company has offered its export partners online payment options from the end of 2015. Export firms operating in 6 of the company's ports will be able to pay their fees online. The procedure taking less than 10 minutes, and transactions can be made by most of the bankers in Vietnam. Tân Cảng Sài Gòn is the biggest container operator nationwide and holds a nearly 50% market share. The company expects the payment system to improve operational efficiency. And that's it for Daily Biz. To rewatch our bulletins, just log on to vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. I'm Thu Linh from VTV International. For now, goodbye from Hanoi.